You know, some families have money, others have influence, but there are very few in history who have literally rewritten the rules of global finance. This is the story of one of them, the Rothschilds, a dynasty whose name still conjures up all kinds of mystery, controversy, and honestly, a bit of awe. So the big question is, how did they pull it off? How did one single family, starting from basically nothing, build an empire that would end up shaping the destinies of entire nations? All right, let's dig in. So, to really get this, our story has to start not in some grand palace, but in the shadows of old Europe. We're going back to the late 1700s, inside a cramped, crowded Jewish ghetto in Frankfurt, Germany. And this is where we meet the man at the center of it all, the founder, Meyer Amschul Rothschild. Now, this guy was born into poverty, but he had a brilliant mind for finance and a vision that stretched far, far beyond the walls of his tiny shop. He was the architect of everything that came next. Okay, so this is where the strategy gets absolutely revolutionary. See, Mayer didn't just build a business, he built a network. And his masterstroke was a simple but totally radical idea that involved his 5 sons. He sent each of his 5 sons to one of Europe's most important financial hubs, London, Paris, Vienna, and Naples, while one son stayed back at the home base in Frankfurt. This single move created the world's first truly international banking network. And this quote just hits the nail on the head. This wasn't just some family business with a few branches. It was a highly sophisticated communication system, a private intelligence agency that could move information and money across a whole continent faster than any king or emperor. So, what was their secret weapon? What was the ace up their sleeve? It wasn't just gold. It was something far more precious in that era, information. And more importantly, the incredible speed at which they could get it. I mean, the difference here is just night and day. While governments were stuck using slow, public messengers, the Rothschilds had their own private network of couriers. Their messages were lightning fast, they were reliable, often written in code, and they were crisscrossing Europe days, sometimes even weeks ahead of any official news. And there's no better example of this than the legendary story from the Battle of Waterloo. As the story goes, Rothschild agents got word of Napoleon's defeat back to London a full day before the government's own messengers arrived. So, is every single detail of that story true? Well, historians still debate it. But you know what? It almost doesn't matter. The legend itself was powerful enough to cement the Rothschilds' reputation in everyone's mind. They were the masters of financial intelligence, and in their world, perception became reality. This kind of power wasn't just about trading. The family basically became the go-to financiers for entire nations. But over time, the way they used that power started to change. It shifted from the public stage into the quiet, private boardroom. Think about it. In the 19th century, you'd see them openly funding wars, building continent-spanning railways, and backing whole empires. Today, that influence looks very different. It's exercised through things like private equity, high-level global advisory, and diversified investments in things like mining and even vineyards. The era of being the loud, public face of finance is over. The family now operates with a level of discretion that is, in its own way, a form of power. It's summed up perfectly in that old saying, "Old money doesn't shout, it whispers." So, what's the big takeaway from all of this? When you strip away the myths and the legends, what is the real, tangible legacy of the Rothschild family? I mean, their impact is pretty much indelible. This family basically laid down the blueprint for modern banking. They created the market for government bonds. They pioneered incredibly complex credit systems. They essentially invented the whole concept of international finance. Just think about it. The idea that you can move money from one side of the world to the other in an instant, that all started with them. Today, the Rothschild empire is decentralized, it's deeply private, but its DNA is embedded everywhere. The operating system they created more than 200 years ago is still running in the background of a huge part of the global economy. In the end, the Rothschild Code wasn't really about some grand conspiracy. It was about brilliant strategy, perfect timing, and relentless innovation. But above all, it was about understanding a fundamental, timeless truth about power. Wealth can come and go, influence can rise and fall, but those who master information, they can truly change the world.